Hi everyone. It is August 18, 2022, and you're watching the Awesome 10X Philippine Market Update. Let's go through the Philippine market. Let's watch the movements. Of course, there was a very strong movement in the Philippines. You're now seeing Philippine stock index is at 6,835, hovering just a few inches away from that 7,000 level. Your market value has been 4 billion for the day, with some blocks and crosses here and there. Advancers are 93, decliners are 103. In general, it has gone down but have recovered and maintaining almost an unchanged status. So let's look at the index movers. Let's just read through this. URC is 125.5, BPI is 95, PLDT is 1764, Metro Bank is 53.55, Jollibee is 232, Globe is 2,380, a few inches away at 24. Emperador is 21, ICT is 186.7, Lushotan Group is 955, Asen is 868, GT Capital is 530.5, Monde Nissan is trading at 16.28, Mega World is trading at 2.59, San Miguel Corporation is trading at 101, Converge 19.68, JG Summit 56, Pure Gold 35.50, AGI 10.5, MPI 374, Aboitiz Equity Ventures 61, Robinson's Land 19.5, Aboitiz Power 32.35, Wilcon 30, SM 880, SM Prime 37.9, Meralco 324, Semirara 42.95. Your top gainers for the day with some volume here would be URC at 125, but the big gainers have low volume, no? So the rest that are trading above 10%, very little volume and value traded there. Primex here at about 2.43, up 5%, 7 million. Okay. Other than URC, you've got PLDT. So less on the gainer side with active volume. As for your losers, let's just take a look at that. Large losers are not a lot. In fairness, you only have SPNEC down 3% here at 1.73, down 4%. That's a 174 million value traded. This is also a big sell-off on Semirara, 82 million pesos being sold at 42.9. So other than SPNEC and Semirara, there hasn't been a strong sell-off yet. This one, Ali, 2875, you do have that 368 million selling pressure for Ayala Land. Most actives, you've got reds and greens here. You can see there are a few reds. As we saw, SPNEC got a seller. We're seeing cross for Emperador here at 20.65. Let's take a look at your top traded names for today. Yeah, red and green, mostly index issues other than SPNEC here. Yeah, most of them are index issues. Robinson's retail here is about just 15 million, very little volume. Nicolasia getting traded here, 585. Felix getting traded here a bit, 3.47. Let's take a look at a few things there. Okay, so in terms of the best movements on all shares for the week, let's just take a look at that. For your weekly changes, strongest movements on a week-on-week basis are a few penny stocks here and there. You've got, other than them, you did see Apex here and Felix, so a lot of 8% movements. Macro Asia hit 9% for the week. Vistaland recovered 7% for the week. Security Bank can see that rallying 7% for the week. So week on week, you've got SECB, DNL, CNPF recovering 6 to 7%, Globe rallying 6% for the week, TUGS 4%. That's for the week. Now, on a month to date, let's just take a look at your strongest performers. Strongest performers, ABS-CBN is 30% up after the news of getting a stake on MVP's TV5. Then you've got Maxis here rallying 27% for the week. You've got Balay running 24% here for the week. You've got Shell Philippines running 23% for the week. So let's try to see these for the month. Let's try to check disclosures for these entities. So let's take a look at that ABS. Let's go through a few charts in your top monthly movers. Okay. Okay, so for the month, we see ABS running up from 9 pesos to as high as 13.5. Let's just go through the charts first before trying to study what we should be reading at on these movements. Okay, chart first. It is trading at its all-time low. We can see that ABS has never gone down at these levels ever since. And the only lowest time was here around October 2020, trading as low as 7 pesos with the franchise not being renewed. So that was the worst news ever, laying off a lot of employees as well during that time. So from 70 peso, ABS has shot down 90% here at 7, rallied back towards 15 on hopes. And then now we do see people hopeful that we may be forming a short-term bottom in your ABS-CBN. Let's try to study ABS-CBN and cover it in company profiles on whether this is bottoming out. For now, let's just do it chart face. Charts are showing a clear higher low here for your monthly charts on ABS. And we can clearly see that even on a daily chart here, the market seems to be resetting with a higher low on your ABS-CBN with about 10 pesos as a higher low support. So these buyers at about 8. Let's take a look as well on your technical volumes. You can see that the volume has increased ever since the news. So around August, there was a strong increase on ABS-CBN accompanied with high volume. So far, ABS-CBN is correcting from 13.5 towards 12 pesos. Maybe the question that most people would ask is ABS-CBN a buy at 12? To answer that, we will try to do a company profile. Okay, to do that, let's try to unlock what has been discussed or just read through a few news, di ba? All right, okay, ABS-CBN, TV5. First, let's read a lot on this news about the TV5 process. Solons are filing resolutions seeking a probe on ABS-CBN's TV5 merger. Dream Team, Rafi Tulfo sees no issue with ABS-CBN TV5 merger. Ano ba ang pinagkaiba ng merger at joint venture? Those are the top news about this. Let's try to read what the lawmakers are seeing about this merger. Okay, palakihin natin para sa mga malalabo ang mata tulad ko. You've got House resolutions filed investigating on that joint venture. They published reports alleging that ABC Development, known as TV5, and a part of cross-media conglomerate owned by MVP's MediaQuest, is actually owned by Indonesian nationals. If this allegation is owned by an Indonesian national is true, then there is a clear violation of the 1987 Constitution. So some people are still likely to say that there is a violation with this ABS-CBN deal. So that might actually impede the process of ABS-CBN finally probably recovering the revenue. So right now there is a restructuring going on and resolutions, legal, franchising, and a lot of lawmakers probably have more to say to this than what anyone in the financial community can really attest. So only the lawmakers can really say what is proper. Nonetheless, this is we are seeing some news. Lawmakers like Rodante Marcoleta announced that the merger may result in a revocation of TV5's franchise. So the third measure was also filed by Talino at Galing ng Pinoy Party List Representative Jose Teves, directing the Legislative Franchises Panel to probe the airing of ABS-CBN programs on TV5. saying that there is a violation of law. Okay, sila. So there are those some lawmakers acting that there is an issue. Whereas here, August 17, just yesterday, your Senator, Rafi Tulfo, is seeing that there is no issue with this merger. Senator said he doesn't see any issue with ABS and TV5. He even describes it as a dream team. This landmark deal, which happened last August 11, elevating their existing block time agreement to a partnership. Sa ngayon, wala akong nakikita. Pero again, I have to ask these questions from the experts. So right now, we're seeing that ABS and TV5 provide strong opportunities for media ABS-CBN franchise to basically get the ton of advertising revenues that it used to make. Obviously, we can only analyze this not on a financial perspective, but on your hopes of the franchise and the TV5 partnership to be negated all the legal discussions. So, nonetheless, I think a lot of people in the Philippines, judging simply by the volume and the action of the stock price, the market is sufficiently compelled to believe that there has been no problem in this merger and that ABS-CBN TV5 programs, ABS-CBN programs being aired on TV5 would continue. That means that advertising revenues would probably grow from current towards higher levels given that TV5 network. It is, I think, a teleserye to look at, but it is perhaps one of the teleseries in the Philippines that we should probably watch. I don't know if you need to know how the revenues of ABS-CBN used to be. The stock price perhaps would be enough, especially if you're a Filipino. Nonetheless, just for understanding, let's just go through even the 2011 annual report. So let's take a look 10 years ago. Here, you can clearly see ABS-CBN at its heyday or peak, let's say here, 2014, 2015, kahit na hindi dyan, no? So even here at these levels, at about 40 pesos, how much would be the annual reports of ABS-CBN in terms of revenues? Revenues muna and the current levels. So let's go through the annual reports. Sige. So let's look at, sige, kahit tingnan natin yung mga last price, ito, 2017, download natin. Yung mga 5 years ago pa. Share natin. Okay, here. Okay, here in the annual report, our commitment to serve, constant transformation, digital, all right. They've got followers on YouTube, accomplishments. Okay, let's go through. Okay. Financial highlights. They say here that their revenues are, in 2017, as much as 40 billion pesos. Advertising revenues was 20 billion pesos. Their consumer sales is 20 billion, so 40 billion. EBITDA used to be 10 billion. Net income is 3.1 billion pesos a year. They've got cash during this time of about 12B, interest-bearing debt of 20B, with a book value per share calculated at 38 pesos. They've got total assets, liabilities, stockholders' equity, and their earnings per share used to be 4 pesos. So in general, if you were looking at the past, had you bought it at 40 pesos, you probably thought that it was trading at 10 times multiple. Okay, now, let's take a look at current levels, wherein, of course, it's now trading at 12 pesos. So you're paying, if you can achieve the prior heights of 2017, let's say 3 or 4 pesos, then many people are paying it at 3 times multiple, or likely at a 70% discount. So there's a question, what about the Salim MVP connection? Will there be issues about that? Good question. So actually, we tried to read the ABS-CBN news featuring that that there are some lawmakers who are saying that this could have a violation. But if you think about it, you have MVP, owning stakes on PLDT, telecommunication. You also have MPI owning stakes in toll roads, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of tollways. In fact, there is a stake in Meralco, which is a utility. If you think about the assets that MVP currently owns via MPI, my belief is that the lawmakers have had enough proof that if you allowed, just by the fact that there are electricity, Meralco stake, telecommunication PLDT, hospitals, the St. Luke's, all of the hospitals that MPI owns, those are all in some ways already allowed. So my guess, and why the market, in my view, is guessing as well or speculating, they are educated enough to believe that this partnership with TV5 is a done deal, and any dips back to 10 pesos is likely to be a buy rather than a sell. Now, let's also try to look at what ABS has been saying ever since. Let's go to the investor relations of ABS-CBN back here. Sorry. Here na lang. Okay. Their latest releases. Sige, let's try to see their annual report 2021. Compare natin the past versus the current. Okay, so ABS-CBN says here that their current assets have shrunk from 18 billion to 13 billion. Total assets now is 52 billion. You've got liabilities of 40 billion with retained earnings still at 8.7 billion. On your gross revenue, kung dati there was about 40 billion in 2017, it has shrunk as well towards 17 billion. Gross expenses are larger, 22 billion, such that their non-operating income and their non-operating expenses gives them a net loss after tax of about, well, here you get to see a 5.7 billion peso loss as of year ending 2021. You can see that they cannot they cannot earn as much as the last 5 years. Now, in terms of debt to equity ratio, it has higher debt. They've got 1.67 debt to equity ratio. They do have some interest expenses that they are able to still pay, which is here. You can see that 3.54. Okay, so seeing the recent annual report, we can clearly see that ABS-CBN's media business has truly suffered in the absence of the Channel 2. The ceased operations or the non-renewal of the franchise has deeply affected their operations. Where did that 17 billion peso revenue, however, come from? Let's see kung meron ditong sinulat. Okay. Used to be that they, of course, gave dividends, but they stopped paying dividends since 2019. Lopez still controls as of December 31, 2021. Lopez Inc., 55%, and PCD nominee, likely many retail investors, 42%. Jose Marichan has 1 million shares of ABS-CBN. You've got Ching Tiong King, it's written here on record, ABS-CBN, Creme Investment, and a couple of people here. All right. Perhaps what is also the strategy of ABS-CBN here is to just resume their operating businesses as the largest cable TV network still in the Philippines. Used to be. Let's see. In February 2021, ABS-CBN's YouTube channel became the most subscribed, most viewed YouTube channel in all of Southeast Asia, racking up 38 million subscribers and over 89 billion lifetime views. Okay, malakas yung digital platform, cable, satellite, and broadband, still there. Global distribution of films, media network. So, dati, 20 billion on the consumer sales. So, malamang dun na lang sila nagsasurvive since nawala yung advertising revenues in the ABS. Kalahati ng revenues nag-decline. So, we can clearly see that even on an upside per se, you can only see ABS-CBN even if mag-resume lahat ng operations, at most, even at the most euphoric valuation, ABS-CBN would be 40. But on the downside naman, people already make the case that 7 and 8, which is roughly at about 2 times to 4 times multiple of their prior earnings when they used to have that revenue, 40 billion, is enough for the bargain hunters. I would say na it's hard to make a testament of the bottom of ABS-CBN or what would happen. But you can see naman from the reaction of the market itself, there is likelihood of a trading action where buyers at 10 are probably very heavy, but 15 are also heavy sellers in the short term, given the uncertainty of the environment still about their agreement nga of that TV5. Let's take a look. What are your thoughts on GMA 7? So I don't watch the media entities in the Philippines masyado. But on the question of GMA, at 11 pesos, I think the best would be let's search how much GMA 7 today earns and revenue, kahit revenues man lang, to oppose versus ABS-CBN. So here, as of June 30, 2022, you can see that GMA's net revenues is 11 billion pesos. That means that in a year, GMA makes about 23 billion pesos. So that's roughly half what ABS used to make. Kasi ABS used to have 2 divisions nga, no? The ABS and yung mga global TFCs and digital network. So you can clearly watch the numbers here. It says here that GMA earned 4 billion, so it is more profitable. You can see that even before, no, when ABS was 40 billion of revenues, they only made 3 billion income. So likely the cost efficiency of GMA is better run in terms of every dollar that or every peso of sales. 2Q, let's take a look on GMA Holdings here. In their recent report for second quarter, management has already shared GMA ended the first half with a net income after tax. I'm not sure if this is correct. Is this just 2.72 million pesos? Revenues for the first semester dropped to 4 million. What's this? Tama ba? Bakit ang liliit? 4 million. Apparently, this is not 4 billion. This is just 4 million. Tama ba to? Dapat billion siguro. Am I looking at the right numbers here? Let's see. GMA 7, second quarter earnings. March 31, 2022, 4 billion to, di ba? 4,000 million. So 4 billion as of March 31, 2022. Net income is 1.5 billion. So bakit neto sinasabi million? Either way, sige. Okay, let's see. You've got current assets of about 50 billion, mostly in cash. That's good. You've got liabilities as well of 48 billion. So parang quits lang. Revenue here is 423,576 million. 6 months, you've got a 4 billion peso of revenue. Maliit, no? Si GMA. So parang 10 billion lang siya in a year. So it is essentially half of ABS-CBN in terms of revenues. But it is very strong numbers, 2.7 billion. Very low operating expense despite the strength of their revenues. Why did it fall though from 8 billion to 4B? This is a exercise fee, note 6. Check natin. Control F. Exercise fees. Here, exercise fees declined, which were generated from the conversion of 70 million PDRs converted in 2021. So sabi niya, it has nothing to do with their actual numbers. It's like financial engineering ba yun? Bakit parang puro mali-mali itong mga millions na to? Dapat 5 billion. 51 billion. No? Ang daming mali dito sa millions to billions. Billion to 51 billion. This is not 51 million. Okay. Speaking of, sige. So, if GMA 7 is earning roughly at about 4 billion pesos, 3 to 4 billion, ano market cap ni GMA 7 today? Ang market cap is 37 billion, which roughly gives them 10 times multiple. So, nangyari na rin in the past na ABS used to trade at 10 times multiple around 2017. So, in general, media companies in the Philippines are being valued historically at 10 times earnings. So, my guess is that for GMA, it's just price today at what it earns. So, there's no upside, there's no there's no upside, but there can be downside depending on ABS, I think. Kasi obviously advertising is gonna be split between these networks, and so the market may be more positive towards ABS rather than GMA, just from looking at those numbers. Is Bella good buy at current levels as a reopening play? What are your thoughts on Jollibee? Let me try to answer those things. For Bell, let's try to hold a casino-related profile report maybe next week. I need to check the numbers if there's anything. Siguro, I'll just try to make a profile report highlighting tourism, including the casinos. So that would be part of the casino theme. So that would be the Soler. Bell is City of Dreams. Check na lang natin. Okay. I'm bearish on Jollibee, generally speaking, here at about 240 pesos. I know that there has been a lot of buyers on Jollibee recently, mainly as the inflation rate has subsided. You've got these inflation levels dropping over the last few months, and people believe that the numbers are going to get better for your cost of goods sold. You will be able to import your beef, your potatoes, etc., all of your cost of food groups at a cheaper price. To me, consumer economy is also rising. That's why a lot of people have been baking in that Jollibee would have higher sales. At these levels of 240, my only view here is that too much perfection is priced in. You're seeing it trading at 6, it's trading back towards its not just 6-month high, that's your 3-year high. Let's see here. So over the last 8 months of the year, Jollibee traded between 210 to as high as 250, and it might retest back towards that 6-month high nga of 250 so far. With Jollibee trading near 6-month highs, let me share that to you, sorry. With Jollibee trading at 6-month highs, I think this is more of the optimism. So it's at 6-month highs and also trades around the midpoint, back towards your 2015 to 2022, where you reached the midpoint or the retracement area, lows of 180 here as high as 325. This one, we gave a buy rating here at about 100 to 130 because that seemed really undervaluation for Jollibee's business. But I think right now, what you can clearly see in Jollibee is that it trades within a range and you are nearing that two ways to think about it. In the short term, it's at a 6-month optimistic high. And in the longer term aspect na rin, Jollibee is already trading near its about 7-year highs of about 2015 to 2017. Those highs of 250 pesos for Jollibee obviously came about from people's perception that the current acquisitions are not yet earnings accretive. So Jollibee fell from a high of 325 owing to their leverage in acquiring Coffee Bean. That was a $300 million acquisition for a company that moves mainly, of course, the sales and income of Jollibee. Your sales have grown, but the earnings didn't grow as fast. And you've got to pay debts, interest expense. So the debt leverage of Jollibee concerns me. The marketing expense, in my view, in Jollibee's foray towards New York, despite the good news that hey, Chicken Joy just got voted the best chicken in the fast food category in USA. You may have known that Jollibee just recently opened a New York Times Square shop. My concerns, and this is just me, I think a lot of retail stores actually bailed out away from New York Times Square, specifically because rentals there apparently cost $2,500 per square feet. That's 2015 data pa. Now, that means roughly some of those retail stores would be paying between $1 to $2 million per month. So let's just assume that Jollibee is paying $1 million per month rental times 12. That's a $12 million rental expense that, in my view, USA, no matter how great your Jollibee store is, I doubt that they're able to pay for that rental. So the way I see it, New York Times Square is more of a marketing expense in Jollibee's thinking. Whether that is their global appeal for people to know that Jollibee exists, for tourists to know that, hey, Jollibee exists, we are a global brand. But to me, Jollibee's foray in very hot tourist destinations like New York Times Square, and diba, sa Europe, they also opened in a very hot spot in UK. I am skeptic of their strategy. Number one, I believe that there are far better brands that Jollibee can use to more effectively, from a brand marketing expense, I don't believe that was the right I'm not, of course, a marketing agent in any way, but this is just as a consumer. I think that it is not the Jollibee I know that will be spending too much in rental. So I am skeptic of what Jollibee's current foray and current strategies are. The leverage, the acquisitions are still a question mark to me. Hindi ko pa nakikita yung actual acceleration. I think everyone is currently pricing in or baking into the current prices. At 240, 250 level, you're already paying above 40 times multiple for a Jollibee. That is already a premium. You pay a premium for the company's ability to obviously generate sales revenues consistently. But in terms of profitability with rising labor wages, and as I said, cost of goods sold is likely to continue to be high. Even if they passed on the cost, I don't think Jollibee trades at the proper valuation today. And if I have it, I would still recommend a sell. 230, 240, 250 seems to be more optimistic than usual. Tugs and Shell Philippines. Okay, I do have a belief that Shell Philippines recently are seeing a lot of undervaluation unlocked. Good to see that Shell Philippines recently has resumed the dividend payouts. We'll talk about that. Let's see. So for Shell Philippines, take a look at this company. Shell Philippines has been trading at significantly 70% below na ba? From 80 to 19. Tingnan natin price range. Since 2017 all the way to current level. So from about 80, it has shot down towards as low as 18. In fact, it even fell here 14 pesos around October 2020. So we can clearly see that the market has been buying Shell and accumulating when it reached this 80% downturn. So far from 2020 till 2022, clearly we are seeing a strong accumulation path that just recently got their directional move of a real path on the upside, no? So why there was that upside move over the last few days has been the strong numbers or the strong earnings. You can see that the volume here in August 2022 truly tells us that something happened. And that something is the resumption of 1 peso dividend. So they said that they plan to increase their dividend payout over the next few quarters in relation, of course, to their net income. So some people are already speculating Shell Philippines could likely make that 1 peso dividend income likely to hit 2 pesos or even as high as 3 pesos if oil prices remain elevated. And my view also is that energy companies, refining companies like Petron and even Shell Philippines are relatively undervalued for the cash flows that they continue to have. And between the two, we can see that Shell Philippines admittedly is a less levered company and has more likelihood to pay cash dividends. Why? Because Petron has preferred shareholders. Petron first pays the creditors of the preferred shares versus the common shareholders. So between the two, we are clearly seeing Shell Philippines being unlocked. Let's try to just, gauge Shell Philippines market cap, and let's take a look at their annual reports as well. So market cap of Shell Philippines, we can clearly see here is 35 billion pesos. And let's take a look at Shell Philippines Investor Relations Group, no? So investor relations of Shell. This is an interesting company that I believe is also getting unlocked. So here, they continue to open their Shell Select. So we're clearly seeing that they are able to prove to the investors that this is a company that can pay the dividends and can prove their financials. 2021 Investors Day, let's also read through that. Recent results, recent investor briefing materials. So here in Q2, let's go here. Okay, so Q2 results, we can, let me share it to you. So you can see all of these. All right, Q2 reset and refocus strategy shared by August 17. Strong partner in nation building, attractive dividends. They're now paying a 1 peso. Marketing footprint, enhancing supply, clean energy solutions are introduced with Shell Recharge and B2C carbon offset. They reported an 8 billion net income with core income of 1.4 billion. So if you think about it, its current market cap is 35 billion. Assuming that they continue to have 16 billion income, that means that this is just trading at about 2 to 3 times multiple, which makes people actually see the value that will be, in my view, unlocked for Shell Philippines. By the way, I did tweet about this Shell Philippines 1 peso dividend. I am of the belief that there is a true value that will be unlocked in Shell Philippines. So I might actually go a deep dive for this company itself next week. So I'll try to make a deep dive for Shell specifically. I am bullish on what is transpiring. The shortcut is that yes, I'm bullish. And you can see that the economy is highly reliant for oil in the Philippines, not just in the Philippines, but the world. So I believe that as the world continues to reopen, Shell Philippines represents the best reopening play. not SM, not Ayala Corp, which other people may actually deem to be better. Because you can see here a quick turnaround of the business. Obviously, when you stayed home, you didn't go out. Now that you're going out, obviously you have to pay for the gas pump, whether it be tricycle drivers, jeepney drivers, cars, motorcycles, and the like. So that is a true staple. Oil is a true staple of the economy. Net income has rebounded from -7 to 7 billion, and it is likely to continue. So let's assume that for the next 3 years, even not 7, even if ganyan lang, steady lang, no? It can pay 1 peso as that that dividend alone is enough for people to obviously pay for this. Borrowing and gearing, take a look. Net debt is healthy naman, 40%. EV, the first EV charging stations, as they said, double-digit growth across all segments, increase in convenience retail income. So meron siyang, so owning Shell is of course owning the Shell Select convenience stores, which also massively contributes to retail income since first half 16, up 24% versus the prior year. I am very happy actually with the Shell numbers, and we give a buy rating talaga for this company. Shell Philippines is a buy. Now look at this. Payout ratio for prior year earnings was 80% and even as high as 95% before the pandemic. Nowadays, they're at 40% at 1 peso. So let's assume by 2023, they just double up that 40 to about 70 or 80. You'll see that 1 peso grow to 2 peso and resume back towards 3 pesos. 3 is the lowest dividend that they paid over the last 2017 to 2019. Therefore, just think about it. If you will resume in that 2017 to 2019 numbers, on your capital appreciation alone, guys, you're already seeing that Shell capital appreciation alone, 2017 to 2019 was around 45 pesos. So from 20, you can see a possible 100% upside without any potential problems in terms of economy, because the world needs oil. Okay, the Philippines needs oil. So from an upside perspective, you buy, let's say tonight, 21. Kahit dyan na, sa 21, you still see that upside of 100%, 44. Now, let's assume that hindi mag-hit yung 100% upside within the year. Let's say it happens somewhere in 2024. Okay, so what happens between your money from now until next year? I believe that your downside is obviously limited here to about 18 pesos. People will continue to buy because without the dividend, the market was already buying it at 18 pesos. So your downside, even at current levels, is how much? Your downside is roughly at 17%. So 1:5. You can clearly see that there is leeway for this to get re-evaluated and revalued, mainly from cash dividends. So we have a buy rating on Shell Philippines. It seems common sense to buy it. Charging stations are not profitable worldwide, so I don't think that EV charging stations will be directly net income kaagad. But it is a good sign since I think EV charging stations are mga 10 years in the making. So I'm not sure if, or 5 years in the making. So I think it's more of a marketing promotion on Shell's part na, hey, we're already starting to do some EV charging stations. It tells the world that if we were to transition automatically to EV overnight, hindi naman overnight, but let's say 5 to 10 years, it just tells you that Shell will remain to be a big player in the charging stations as well. So you don't have to assume na, oh, because the gas cars will become EVs, what would happen to these Shell stations? Will these gas stations have to die or go bankrupt? The answer is no. They'll just refurbish that gas station to also serve an EV. So I think it's more of an added benefit. Plus, you can see that the business itself of Shell is a convenience store model. So you are getting, for the price of 35 billion, almost just 2 to 3 times multiple. It is trading at scrap value. Sorry, I didn't get to answer your TOGs. But for TOGs, I do believe that the answer there is higher ocean freight rates. Shipping has been still on a tear. And what thugs, of course, will be very good upon or be evaluated upon, in my view, is the ability to pay dividends. Last few months pa naman, I've always been saying na if 2022 is a year where you want to find values or get a bottom of things, you have to just simply pay a cash dividend. Because when you pay a cash dividend, automatically the world will buy you. Because how much would REITs pay? How much would treasury bonds pay? Everyone can see rising interest rates is a real risk. And if they cannot make 10% or 5% in the stock price, they would rather just, hey, I'll just get 3% cash div, I'm good enough. So some companies willing na nga sila to get 3% despite inflation rate still hovering above 8%. So you can see that the real rate is really negative, but the market simply wants to acknowledge that if you are a cash flow king, you might as well pay. Kasi we don't want you to keep on growing. And PLDT managed to do that. That's why it was very strongly bid up. You saw Globe recover. I've been harping out na, Globe at 2.1 is 2,000. It's a good value pa rin if you are just sticking to a dividend play. Meralco today is 325, 15 pesos over 325. How much is that? Still at about 4 to 5%. For others, they may not like a 4% gain or a dividend gain a year. But for other people, that's good enough kasi they're paying for the stability, reliability. Nothing to do with, kailangan ko mag-grow, ganyan. Now, so we talked about just two entities today, Shell. Let's do some discussions next week of other Philippine entities. But people kept asking, what do you think about the index? What do you think about the index? And my answer is, I don't believe that you look at the index level. You should be looking at the companies itself. So for instance, with index hovering at 6.8, I don't think that you should say to yourself, I cannot buy anything in the Philippine market. You can clearly see that there are oil turnaround plays that are not properly valued still in the Philippines. And it's not even part of the index. So how could the index even affect it? Now, how about Cebu Pacific? We talked about last week. It's just trading at 45 pesos. It's still way below the reopening numbers, and yet the revenues and the earnings you can clearly see is recovering. So the play that we are making here is bet on a strong recovery, strong reopening, instead of paying 40 times multiple on Jollibee or paying like 30, 40 times on an SM. I think that there's a strong case here to buy the SEB and the Shell Philippines, the airline and the energy. Travel and energy is still our highest conviction pick. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.